Hallo, alle sammen. Hello. Oh, I love it when I say hello and it goes quiet. Okay, welcome to the last session for today. Everybody take a seat. Thank you. It's the last session of today. It's the media panel. It's a new happening at this conference, High North Dialogue. I want to take the opportunity to say thank you to the High North Center for facilitating this panel. I think it's important. The press is a huge part of the High North, and the coalition that we see today in the new reality is the Nordics. So here we are, all Nordic journalists. I believe that it's more important than ever now in these times to talk about the freedom of the press and free speech. The press are taking hits from left to right. We have to juggle a lot at the same time right now. News changes by the hour. I had to check all my regular news sources now before coming up here just to make sure that I'm not giving you old news from an hour ago. So it's safe to say that we have lost the Russian press. We are on our way to lose the American press, or the American free press. It's fading when it comes to democratic values. So this is the Nordics. These are the Nordic journalists. They are from Svalbard. They are from the Arctic Finland, from the Arctic Sweden, and Arctic Norway. So here we are, just hunkering up in our corner of the world. We see the world from the top of the Arctic. It looks different from up here. On the whole left of me, I have the Russian Arctic, standing on the North Pole. In the corner over there, there's a little island called Scandinavia, and the Nordics and Finland. There's Greenland, a little piece of Iceland. Canada, Alaska. This is our world. We're going to try to use the next hour to tell you what it's like. And I would like everybody here to ask questions as we go. If you have something you want to ask us, raise your hand, and our people will come over with microphones to you, and we'll just take it as we go instead of leaving it at the end. So, dear colleagues on this stage, thank you for coming to Norway and to the mainland to take part in this discussion. With us today, we have editor-in-chief of Svalbardposten. It's the northernmost newspaper of the world. It is, yes. Yeah. Ylvisåker, welcome to you. We have Melinder. He's the editor of SVT Norrbotten. Yeah, just to pass, cross the border from where we sit now. We have Sari Pöyhönen from the Barents Press Finland, as well as the Finnish broadcaster Yle.
Yes, hello.
Yeah, you are based in Rovaniemi.
Yes.
In Finnish Lapland.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
that's correct.
Yeah, and to the border of Russia. It's only 2 hours drive.
Something like that, yes.
Yeah. Okay, let me begin with Ylvisåker, actually, because you made a good point to the people here and to the people out there streaming in. You work in Svalbardposten in Svalbard, Norwegian island, but what is Svalbard really?
Svalbard is a Norwegian archipelago, and I work for Svalbardposten based in Longyearbyen. That's the main city of Svalbard and also a Norwegian settlement. And as you said, Svalbard is part of Norway, but it's also special because of the Svalbard Treaty. It's 100 years this year since it started to have effect. And it says that people and companies from the cities who signed the treaty are also allowed to live and work and do business in Svalbard in a certain degree, as long as they can, they have enough money, they have housing, they can take care of themselves. And that makes it very special. We also have a Russian settlement in Svalbard, Barentsburg, which is situated only 40 kilometers from Longyearbyen. So that makes Longyearbyen and Svalbard very special, and Svalbardposten's work as well.
So it's safe to say it's a geopolitical hotspot right now.
Yeah, it
Yes,
is, absolutely.
You have lived in Svalbard for 18 years?
Yeah, soon 19, I think.
Soon 19.
Yes, I'm starting to grow up, actually.
Yeah. So, and you have been working as a journalist and an author. You've written a couple of books about climate change. Tell us a little bit what it's like to work in Svalbard. It is a real hotspot right now.
Yeah, so in Svalbard we're situated in the middle of the geopolitics, of course. We are kind of in the middle of Russia and the US. We have a Russian neighbor, we have American interests, we have China coming, and at the same time we're also in the middle of climate change. Svalbard is also where the heating happens fastest and where we can see some of the signs first. So being a journalist there is really interesting, and it's we have so much to write about, so it's more a big problem on how to choose what to write and what not to, because there are so many important stories to be told.
So your job is to be a local newspaper for the people of Longyearbyen, as well as basically answering to the world.
Yeah. So there are about 2,500 inhabitants in Longyearbyen, the Norwegian settlements, and we have a bit about 2,000 subscribers. So a lot of our readers are situated in the mainland. So we have a mix of old Svalbardians reading us from the mainland, decision makers, scientists, a lot of people reading us in the mainland, and then we have the local society who need us to be the glue, to be there to cover the football team, the children's concerts, all the festivals we have. We have a very, very rich cultural life. So that's also our job. So we have to combine this too, and kind of put our little city in a bigger context. And what does the politics mean to us?
And there's 3 of you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In working with journalism. So it's me and 2 journalists, and now we're very lucky we have 1 extra.
Yeah.
3 more months.
What has changed for you as a journalist and an editor for the last 3 years?
Well, when Russia went to war in Ukraine, that was a big change. For me, I always found Barentsburg and the Russian settlements. They also had Pyramiden, which was abandoned, and then they started a bit of tourism there again. Very interesting. And I wanted to know the people. I wanted to understand, why did they come? Did they come from the same reasons as me, the adventure, the nature and everything? And why did they stay? Who are they? So I started to get to know people, visited people in Barentsburg and wrote their story. And then the war came and everything changed. So a lot of people left Barentsburg. A lot of people from the travel company there left because they didn't agree on the politics from Kreml. New people came in, and the Norwegian Visit Svalbard, the travel kind of cooperation, they banned the Russian company from their organization, and they also said that they don't want their members to have trips to these Russian settlements. So it's kind of closed down very much. And we have always had like cultural and sports exchanges between Norwegian and Russian settlements, also during the Cold War, but this also stopped. So to us, there's a lot to write about, all these things happening, how important is like people-to-people meetings today, who are living there, who does this affect the Russians living in Longyearbyen, because we have quite a few of those as well, and Ukrainians, everyone living together, and what does this have to do to say about the security politics of Svalbard and Longyearbyen? And internet security, a lot of questions.
sounds exhausting when you
Yeah.
when you say it like only once. It's like this is
Yeah.
what we have to deal with.
And also there was a big change from the period before where we wrote a lot about climate change. We knew all the natural scientists and that was kind of a main topic. And now we're back to writing more about geopolitics and the big pictures.
I can relate to that. Yeah, you try to avoid it; it just keeps coming at you.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Lina. Marcus Melinder, you are a Swedish journalist in the Swedish Arctic. You have worked for the Swedish Northern Press for many years. Yeah. Has the Russian aggression that Lina is talking about, has it affected how you cover the region of northern Sweden?
Well, compared to my colleague here, we're quite unaffected compared to you. But obviously, the amount of Ukrainian refugees in our news coverage has increased significantly since 2022, of course. And we have military units in our region as well. And the focus in our coverage of those military units has also increased. In fact, we have been exporting military equipment from our region to Ukraine, for example, anti-tank weapons and air defense systems. And so basically, just answering your question, no, it hasn't affected us so directly as maybe in Svalbard. But of course, we as all the neighboring countries are affected by this war in some way. I want to say that we have a Ukrainian reporter, a journalist working with our newsroom for 3 years now. She came to us because she fled from Ukraine and ended up in Boden in Norrbotten. And she came to our newsroom one day. She couldn't speak a word of Swedish, not very much English, but she had a translation app. And she was looking for work, and I took her in. Now she speaks Swedish. She does reporting for us, and she has been an invaluable asset for us in reaching the Ukrainian diaspora in Sweden. So yes, it's affected us, but not on a daily basis, I would say.
Okay, thank you. It's been a year since Sweden joined NATO.
Yeah.
It went very fast.
It did.
Not fast enough because Finland didn't wait for Sweden.
Yeah.
But can you take us through the news year? Has the mood changed? What was it like in northern Sweden with the public? Was it positive towards NATO, or has that changed?
Well, I would say that there has been. For starters, we're a regional, local newsroom. The NATO process, of course, is covered by the national editorial team. But for us, it's been some criticism from the public during this DCA agreement, the Defense Cooperation Agreement, because the Defense Cooperation Agreement, it statutes that the US can have military weaponry and personnel on Swedish soil. That has caused some debate in northern Sweden. I should say that the area that we are covering in Norrbotten, that's 1/4 of the whole Sweden, but it's only 250,000 inhabitants. So it's quite much wasteland, so it's quite an interesting area to cover, really. But not much discussion. It's been, American soldiers on the streets in Luleå. We've seen that. That's quite unique, but it's the aftermath of the entry into NATO.
Yeah. So the mood is calm in Norrbotten.
Quite, yeah.
Okay, Sari, let's turn to you. Finland is the Nordic country that shares the longest border with Russia, 1,400.
Almost
almost kilometers long. You live and work in Rovaniemi in Lapland, like we said, but you also speak Russian.
Yes.
And you lived in and worked in Russia, in Murmansk, in the Russian Arctic, for those who don't know that, and in St. Petersburg. Can you share with us a little bit from your daily news coverage of your region?
Well, I do news as a journalist in Rovaniemi, Yle, about everything, but also about Russia or Russians and about geopolitics, if it is concerning Lapland or northern Finland. But yes, I try to follow Russian media through internet, and I check out what happens in Murmansk, for example. And I also make interviews with Russians in Finland or in Lapland, and Ukrainians who are as refugees in Lapland, for example. And the one concrete example how this has affected not only that Ukrainians are in Finland more than ever, but now when I make the interview, I need to ask, is it okay to talk Russian with you? Because even some Russians don't want to speak in Russian. But one person, Ukrainian, said that, well, okay, usually I don't want to speak Russian anymore, even if I know that. But with you, I know that you are from Finland and we wouldn't have any other common language. So in Russian, it's okay to have interviews nowadays. But I need to ask about that. It's a little bit
sensitive.
Funny, yeah.
Yeah. Are the security issues different in the north of Finland than it is in the south of Finland?
Maybe more concrete. We have more war exercises or military exercises in Lapland because we have the largest area for that, Rovajärvi. It's a big shooting area and exercise area. And we see military people, soldiers more, maybe in our towns and our lands in Lapland. And maybe from Helsinki reduction, Yle makes more like a global and more politics about that, but we have some concrete things. For example, some road is going to break under the tank in the war exercise, and people are annoyed because of that, and that is seen in our area also.
So people object to some of the military activity?
Yes, there are people who don't accept it or they criticize NATO membership in general, and some of them are very positive about that, so there are different opinions about that. But mostly Finns are positive about NATO, but there are also minus sides.
We see we're being warned about hybrid warfare from Russia. Especially close to the border. I know that the GPS systems of Finnmark doesn't always work. The airplanes get false information. If you want to dig something, you have to go and measure it instead of using electronic equipment. You might dig it, by the wrong house. And some would say that the war is already here. We just don't see it. So you're close to the border. Does this interference, or Russian propaganda, or the hybrid warfare, does it affect your work?
Well, the border is closed because of the hybrid attack from Russia. Our politics consider these refugees from Russia, from third countries. It was late 2023. when in the autumn there began to come the refugees from African and Asian countries to Finland, and then Finland decided to close the border. Well, that's affecting a lot, and not only ordinary people. We cannot go to Russia anymore, but for journalists, of course, I couldn't go there. Well, I wouldn't go there maybe, even if the border was open, maybe. I'm not sure if it is safe for me to go there, but yes, I couldn't go there to have interviews in Russia. Without this situation, I could, but now I can't. I'm very sad about that.
Yeah.
You asked if the hybrid warfare affected us in any way. We don't know.
No.
That's the whole thing about it. We don't actually know. In accordance to that, we are more vigilant now for everything. We have to fact check. We have to verify. We have to, be suspicious of everything because we don't know if the hybrid warfare is affecting us and in what way it is affecting us.
That's a problem.
Yeah.
Yeah, Linda.
And also it changes what we write about. Like Svalbard could be, or some say that could be a place for hybrid attacks in different ways. And we have to kind of prepare. And how do we do that? So we also write about the electrical system. Is it good enough? What could we do? What would happen if it fails? The same with water, drinking water, communications. So we're kind of aware of different topics in a different way than before. And all this also puts Svalbard in kind of national politics. It shouldn't be a local responsibility to make sure that these things work and are in place. It needs to be a national one.
Yeah, and for example, a correspondent of Yle in Moscow, he just came back to Finland because his post was over after 2 years, and he said that any article or anything that he makes and is usually connected to war or geopolitics or something like that, and there could be so much more also about Russia to cover, but nowadays it's the theme that interests a lot. People are interested, people are afraid also, so that's something that we need to cover, I suppose.
It's complicated to separate the truth from the lies. How do we do it?
Well, I check from many sources, and I maybe ask from some people who are specialists. It's the traditional journalism methods.
Yeah. At SVT now we are, for a couple of years ago, we initiated SVT Verifies with clear influence from BBC Verify. And that's a news desk consisting of 7 reporters, I think they are now in Stockholm, and we have expanded the group with 1 reporter in Luleå in the north of Sweden. And SVT Verifies, well, it's pretty much what it sounds like. We verify photographs, videos, statements being claims that are going viral and so on. And for example, is this video really what it depicts to be? It's quite fascinating because they use digital tools to how the sun is going over the sky, which time was this photograph taken. You can check mountain ranges in the back, compare it to satellite pictures and so on to verify if this is a real picture taken at the moment where it's said to be. And mainly it has been from the Middle East and the Ukraine war, but we see a clear possibility to expand this even to national news. And I think that more and more newsrooms will initiate these kind of verification teams, because it's necessary, because we can't separate false from truth anymore.
Well, I don't agree totally. I think there is truth, but of course there are different angles to it.
There is truth, but it's very hard to distinguish because you have to verify it first. Of course there's truth, but it's a philosophical question. What is truth? Yeah.
And I also think it's important, or we don't have that much resources. We cannot have people doing what you do, but to try to put things in context. If we learn that the Russians are saying something like they will have a charter flight from Russia to Longyearbyen with tourists, and that's all over Russian media, then we have to go kind of to the Norwegian lawmakers. Are they allowed to do so? Talk to scientists about what are they trying to do? Why do they tell these stories? Try to make a bigger picture. But it's difficult when you have to produce all the time and be very wise at the same time. So it's a big task.
And also you're competing for news.
Yeah.
With other news organizations.
And maybe we should think differently about it, that we're on the same team trying to make the truth get out there, instead of speeding up.
Exactly, yeah. Good thinking. Tell me a little bit about Barentsburg. It's a Russian settlement. There's no roads from Longyearbyen to Barentsburg. You have to go by helicopter or boat.
Yeah, or snowmobile in the winter.
Oh, yeah. Okay. They have a leadership of some sort, a governor or...
Yeah, they have, it's a mining company originally, and then they have started doing tourism as well. So they have a general director, and this is a state company, so it's a state-owned company, so it's the Russian state. And then there's a general council as well. There's a consulate in Barentsburg.
And is it correct that when the war started, the governor of Svalbard was flooded with extra work or requests or applications from Barentsburg?
Yeah, there were a lot of requests. Yeah, so some called it kind of a document storm.
Yeah.
So there were a lot of cases. We had a big Orthodox cross that they wanted, or they put up in Pyramiden, a place where they weren't allowed to have it, and then they applied to put it another place to get it kind of into an area where it was allowed. We have Soviet flags. It was this kind of parade on the Freedom Day where they used a helicopter flying low, like a different picture that we used to see. So we saw some changes. But at the same time, Norwegian law apply, and Norwegian police are in Barentsburg, different, what you call it, tilsyn.
Yeah, oversight. Or
they're going there. So it's still kind of on an official status quo like it was before, kind of. So the governor still has meeting days in Barentsburg. I joined them this autumn, where people in Barentsburg were written into the Norwegian Svalbard kind of register of inhabitants. So kind of putting that into order. So there's still contact.
It's Norway, but it's a different world.
Yeah.
I see that we have a question from one of the journalist teachers at New University. Martin?
Hello?
Yep.
It's very interesting to listen to the panel, and I just want to throw a few arguments into the pot. You said a hybrid threat is imminent, so we have to be aware of that. But if you compare the media landscape from this time to in the old time, before 1989, when everything was secret, and papers and radio was like running without the social media. What is the challenge, and is there a challenge for normal media to use it that way, when you have echo chambers saying that you can't trust the Swedish television because it's state-owned, you can't trust their verifying team because it's state-owned, because it's mainstream media? How do we break that glass ceiling or glass bottom? That's a question for the whole panel. And when I grew up, I was living in a military town called Lødingen with a military fort. So everything was secret, in theory. But are you afraid, or do we see a development that information will be a secret because it will be a national secret or a state secret? So the pressure will be from both sides, both the external pressure with the hybrid pressure threat, and that the military or the safety thing would be so high that all information will be classified. You understand what I'm saying, where I'm going with this? So if you have the time to discuss those two issues, that would be nice. Thank you.
Okay, any thoughts?
Yes.
No trust.
You know that you should only ask one question at a
Yes.
time.
That's good journalism.
Yeah. Your first question there, keep reporting. Keep reporting. That's the only thing we can do. Keep reporting. Keep being accurate. Keep reporting to the public. Keep telling it like it is. Because you're right. We are in a state now of post-truth. Everything is false. Everything is up to debate. Is the earth round? No, it's flat. Well, that's your opinion. Well, no, that's not my opinion. The earth is really round. So everything is up to debate. But for us, we can't be dragged into that. We have to keep reporting. We have to be, doing our fact checks, doing all our routines, and not fall into the debate, because then we tend to be activists. We are one of 1,000 different opinions in the media choir. We have to defend our position, our unique position, and the trust that we have. In Sweden, SVT, for example, and SR, the Swedish radio, has a very, very high trust in the society. And I think that's because we don't participate in the debate. We have to keep reporting. That's my mantra.
Yeah, I agree, and be balanced and get the. If there is something, then we have to be truthful and objective. If there is minus sides and plus sides, so it's like we need to tell the truth, and of course in every article you cannot tell all the picture, but try to make this context and try to make it clear for the audience what is this and why this is important and what kind of effects this has and what pluses and what minuses, both of them.
Both sides.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think talking to different kinds of sources, different kinds of people, we see what's happening in the U.S. So what happened there? I would like to have an analyze to try to learn from that in the Norwegian press. How do we tell the stories that keep people trust us? Both we have to tell the truth and check our facts, but I think it's also it has something to do with what kind of stories, which people you talk to kind of get the full picture, not only in the article, but in the society.
But do you think that we should also talk to the unpopular opinion?
Yeah, I think we have to, and we have to put that in context.
Yeah, trolls.
Should we
but
get
trolls?
all opinions? Should we get
trolls? Yeah.
No, because there isn't equal opinions. Actually, if the example I said with the Earth is round or is flat, it doesn't make a debate equal if I have one person who thinks it's round and one person who thinks it's flat. That's not an equal debate. And when you say trolls, that's people, the meaning for those people is to corrupt the debate. And we have bots, for example. I think we have to be transparent in what we're doing. Explain to the public our methods, how we came to this conclusion, be transparent in our jobs, and explain to them why we're doing this, and also admit when you're wrong.
I agree. And the second question was, will information be secret? Or if there will be like national secrets that are not available for us, then it's a matter of democracy that we need to have this kind of openness from officials like we have now, and maybe even more, I don't know. But at least this openness that we have now from our officials. And it's democracy. And politicians who will not make laws or national secrets or this, or that kind of information that can be public, should be public in the future as well. But that's about the laws and these kind of things.
And we experience that it's getting more difficult to write about infrastructure, for instance. Before we could visit the power plant, write about it, go in and see the engines, everything was open. And now it's getting stricter and stricter, and it's put behind security. And where is kind of the line? How do we work? It's pretty new, so that's also challenging how to approach this and try to have the openness that we need. Because if we are to have trust in the government in the future, we need to know that we are safe, that they have kind of a system that's good enough, and then they have to tell me what kind of system they have. So we have some challenges there. Also on drinking water. Yes, we want to be open, but we cannot tell you that because that's kind of restricted information, and that's pretty new.
Is it worrisome? Are we looking at a little bit more
think
close
it's
Norwegian
worrisome.
Nordic society?
Yeah. So I think we need the discussions on that.
Okay. Well, thank you.
Yeah.
We have a question in the back. Yeah, okay, let's take 2 questions and then we're going to move away from hybrid war. Yes.
Hey, my name is Daniel. I'm from LO, which is a union in Norway. I have a question about clickbait, because I see more and more journalism is about clickbait because they use so much social medias. For example, it's like you say on Facebook or Instagram, you will see titles like see what this person did, or what did this person do, and a lot of these clickbait titles. And I think that may be a problem, because we see more and more that people just read the titles, they don't read the article. And I think it's important that journalism don't focus on clickbait, but also try to inform people, even that they read only the title. If you understand what my question is, what do you think about the clickbait culture that's growing in our society?
Well, thank you. I think when it comes to clickbait, I think you have the wrong panel.
Well,
but we do, of course, experience it as well.
It's about the truth and about the, if the headline says that something and then the article says something else, and it's only the clicks that you are hunting, then it's not a real important journalism, in my opinion.
Yeah, but I believe it was more so before. Now, for example, the commercial media now is very reliant on people paying for the news, and therefore the need for clickbait has decreased. Yeah. Before, when you just were searching for traffic, you saw a lot of lots more of clickbaits. Not anymore. I think there is clickbait, of course, but that's not a real good strategy for keeping the audience, I think.
Yeah, exactly. I think it's more a thing of the past, at least maybe in the Nordics. I did see some of it today, but I think for us, we tend to avoid it. I think in the state-owned media, absolutely. Yes, gentleman in the back. It's not on.
Is this better?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you. Yeah. My name is Felix. I used to be recent graduate now of the Scott Polar Institute. I want to talk a little bit more about threats to media freedom. Obviously, this can take many forms. I know that Finland, for example, is used as an example of best practice with regards to anti-SLAPP legislation. But I'm kind of wondering what, for the panel, are perceived as the major threats to your media freedom. Does it happen when it comes to freedom of information requests? Is it with regards to intimidation or things like self-censorship? I'm essentially wondering, what is the threat landscape that you experience when you're doing your reporting?
When it comes to freedom of the press, what are the number one threats?
For me, I think Sweden and Finland and Norway are always ranked very high when it comes to press freedom index. But the biggest threat for us in Sweden, I think, is the small steps. All the small steps narrowing down the freedom of speech. You can't photograph there. Now we have a legislation that says you can't say this. It's small steps, and we accept them, and then you can't photograph a building that was before free to photograph and so on. That's the biggest threats, I think. I don't see a dictator coming in and just strangling all the free press all at once. It's the small steps for me.
Sari.
We have this threat in northern Finland and in other regions of Finland actually going on now. Last week we got the information who will be kicked off and who will stay in journalism. I could stay in my job, but it's about 10% in general that Yle is cutting the personnel now. And in Lapland it is, or in northern Finland it is something like every fourth of my colleagues has to go away, either on pension, either get kicked away. So there will be less journalists in north of Finland. And it is a threat, and it's because of the economics. We have a financial crisis in Finland because of war and maybe other things, but war is making the economics like shit, and it affects also journalism. So we are less journalists in Lapland, in Finland.
It may become a democratic problem at the end.
I hope not, but it's a threat in my opinion.
Yeah. Okay, we're going to, time is running fast, we're going to move into the land of the dreams, according to North Norwegian politics. Look to Sweden. That's what they said. A year ago, 5 months ago, not so much anymore.
Not so much when it comes to cross-country skiing.
Not so much about now. Okay, so let's talk business. North Sweden was the green dream. It was the Norwegian green dream. It was like a mantra. It seemed like northern Sweden could do everything that northern Norway couldn't. The mining company LKAB, was thriving. You had the Northvolt battery company. And then fast forward to 2025, Northvolt Sweden has declared bankruptcy, leaving behind a huge debt, people without a job, empty housings. Looking back, Marcus, did the press act more like cheerleaders in the green shift, or covering it as critical reporters?
I would say the first, a cheerleading squad. I would say I was part of the cheerleading squad for a time there. I was the editor-in-chief for the local newspaper in Skellefteå, where the Northvolt established the big factory Northvolt 1. And we have to bear in mind, Skellefteå is a quite small town in the north of Sweden. This giant battery factory comes there. We will produce 3,000 new jobs. it's a dream come true. And for a local newspaper, it would almost be disloyal to be too critical, if you know what I mean. I think the pendulum has swung 180 degrees now. You see lots more critical investigations, investigative journalism going into Northvolt and other green industries that are planned or being established at the moment.
And you're talking specifically about new industry in Boden.
Yes, in Boden, outside of Luleå, there's a big steel factory being established. It's they're gonna produce fossil-free steel, and it's quite interesting. We don't know how that will go. Some of the investors and the owners of Northvolt are the same as those involved in Stegra, as the company is called. We have to bear in mind, though, that steel is something that Sweden knows. We know how to make steel. We have made it for centuries. Batteries is a completely different ballpark, and there we have China as the big main character. So you can't compare the two directly like so, but from the media perspective, we are much more vigilant now towards Stegra compared to Northvolt, I think.
How is are there open processes? Are the media allowed to be invited inside, the processes?
This is private companies. In Sweden you can't. You don't have that insight into private companies like that. You have the annual reports, of course. And I think those reports will be much more scrutinized now compared to Northvolt, because Northvolt was built on loans, primarily.
Yeah. How do you balance, like Lina was talking about, you have to be a local press, you're going to cheer on the local industry and also be critical. How is that balance?
What do you say from Svalbard?
I think we can do a lot with asking critical questions. I think the readers also have a lot of questions, so addressing those questions is kind of the first step, I think, and try to get answers. And if you have resources, then you can go and dig in, follow the money, see what happens. Yeah.
Yeah. Are people disappointed with the local press when you're being critical towards, something that would generate jobs and money?
Well, in Rovaniemi, for example, always somebody is criticizing journalists. So if you are telling plus sides about tourism, how it gives money to locals, then somebody is criticizing why you don't tell about these minus effects and Airbnb making rents so high that locals cannot afford renting apartments anymore. So there is always some feedback, so both sides.
Yeah, it's a balance. Let's circle a bit back to NATO. When Finland became a NATO member, our editor and commentator, Arno Uholm, he was driving across. He was supposed to go to Russia because the pandemic was over. But then we woke up to war in Kirkenes and it was closed again. So he took the car and he drove down the border to Finland, speaking to locals who was living on the border. And they were mostly positive about a NATO membership. He talked to people who actually feared both NATO because Putin had threatened a backlash, but they also feared not being. So it was a squeeze on the border there. You speak Russian. Tell me, what kind of news came out of Russia at that time? You know that it was all the threats that if NATO takes in Finland, we're going to punish Finland for it. What kind of news did you read from Russian news sites about that time, about the ascension?
That time when Finland
Yeah.
wanted to become a member of NATO. Well, I don't remember exactly when it was, but in some point Putin told that, yeah, we don't care, Finland can be a member of NATO or not, but there will be some effects or something we will do. And of course, later on, it's a negative thing for Russia that there is lots of more NATO border with it, and Russia considers NATO as an arch enemy. So,
Yeah.
of course, it's a negative thing and now Finland is not friendly country anymore, and so it's in media in Russia, in Russian media, it's visible very well. But of course, Russian journalists in exile outside of Russia, there is many kinds of articles about that. But yeah, in Russia, it's a negative picture.
Yeah, still. Yeah. Okay, well, you are a board member, as am I, of Barents Press organization. You're in the Finnish side. It's an organization for journalists who work and live in the Barents region. Barents Press Russia ceased to exist shortly after the war. It was simply too risky. It's a touchy subject, but can you tell something about what was it like to lose your Russian colleagues like that overnight?
It was devastating, of course. I was actually crying. So, yeah. And it's very sad. Of course, Ukraine has the saddest situation. But Russian journalists, Russian friends, they are also in very sad and terrible situation. Many of them have fled or moved away from Russia. Some of them are still in Russia. Some journalists there are not working as journalists anymore, or if they, some of them have some social media channel that as a media, but yeah, they are struggling. But there are some journalists in Russia still, but in a very difficult situation.
Do you have any contact with any of the old colleagues?
Yes, sometimes, but of course it might be dangerous for them as well if I have too much contact with them, or if they will be collected and if there is some foreign influence and you don't actually know what is foreign influence and how it is. One colleague of mine said that she doesn't know what is a foreign influence. If you wear jeans or if you listen to Beatles, it can also be foreign influence. It's a Russian journalist's opinion or a sentence that she said to me a couple of years ago. So it's, but yeah, we try to make a cooperation. We meet with Russian journalists, mostly those who are in exile, but we do have some contacts also with journalists who are in Russia. But of course, it might be dangerous for them too.
So we're approaching the last few minutes. We have to address the orange elephant in the room. We have to talk about USA and all the news that comes out of there and the freedom of the press, because what we're seeing in America now is, like I said at the beginning, is the beginning of the end. Is it the beginning of the end of free press?
In USA?
Yeah, in the West.
No.
No?
No.
You're positive?
Positive? I don't think so. The United States is founded on free press and diversity, and I think that's bigger than one person. With that being said, I don't say that there aren't risks and there will be consequences and victims along the way. But I think that the United States will endure this as well as other obstacles through the decades. But I think that the president in the United States has affected the climate, the discussion climate, and the free how we see the press in the rest of the world as well. I told you about the post-truth. I think it stems from 2016 when he first came to office.
What do you think?
I'm afraid of losing freedom of press and freedom of speech and freedom of thinking and everything. But of course, I hope for the best. But you cannot take democracy or freedom of speech for granted. We need to fight for that in West also. And if USA voted for Trump, and maybe the majority of USA citizens wants it to be like that, I don't know. But democracy is something that we need to fight for and keep it something that it's not for granted. If we don't do anything, then dictatorships can come and take over.
I'm going to let you, Lina, have the last word here, and then we take a last question.
I have hope too, but I think it's a bit dark as well. I went to America in 2018 and talked to journalists there, and they were very sad because why aren't people listening to our stories? Why aren't they listening to what we are writing? What do we do wrong? Where do we write the wrong stories? So there is something happening. A lot of people don't read editorial news anymore. They just use social media. So I think it's really important to have these discussions, and I think editorial media are more important than ever, maybe. But I believe that there are so many strong people in the US as well, and very good journalists that they will find a way through this. But I think it will be hard work.
The small hopes.
Yeah.
Okay, question?
Yeah, hi, I'm Michael. I'm the CEO of Polar Journal, and I'm working in a similar field as you are. We're reporting on anything that's connected to polar regions. And just a little comment, I think you're not doing justice to the elephants when you call it an orange
sorry,
elephant.
but sorry
no,
to the
because
elephants.
elephants are intelligent. So my question there is, yesterday I heard a very disturbing comment from the vice president calling, like Greenland has been threatened and so on. So you probably all heard them. And this is completely nonsense, it's completely wrong. And I would like to ask you as editors, as being right in the middle of the places where these people are actually, talking about, how do you actually think you could address and probably also show that, this is like nonsense, that this is not true, how you, in the middle, how you could address that to the media that is not there. I mean, there are a lot of Arctic topics have gained track. There is a lot of reporting from outside news agencies and newspapers. How would you address this, and how, for example, with
the false claims of
exactly.
J.D. Vance saying that Greenland is threatened from many sides. How would you address that?
Can you address it?
No, I can't. That's out of my jurisdiction, Greenland.
Well, I'm not an editor. I'm just a normal, regular journalist. But if, let's say, Trump or Putin would say that somebody's threatening Lapland, north of Finland, and then maybe there would be needed some data and some opinions of Russians and Americans in Lapland. Are they feeling really threatened? That means research and specialists in this kind of field that can answer to these questions. Is this correct, claiming that is there a threat? And then we would make an article about
So
that.
fight it with facts.
Yeah, exactly. Yes.
Yeah, okay. Well, thank you. Lina, do you have anything to add before we...
No, I agree. Yeah.
Okay. Well, that concludes the last panel of the day. Thank you so very much for coming and for the good questions. Andreas?